hour. We're going to keep it on track. And yeah, hopefully we'll also get some questions from the audience. Hey, Shakia, I'm just kind of running them through what's going to be happening. But let me turn it over to our fearless leader so she can give you guys some words before we start. Oh, you're on mute, Shakia.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us this evening for our inaugural National Town Hall around this partnership with the ACLU around the intersection of the debilitation of federal student loan debt and Black women in particular. I'm excited to have a conversation with all of you, learn from all of you, laugh, complain, maybe shed a tear, and really start to build community across the country so we can energize and mobilize to get this thing changed. So thank you so much again for being with us tonight. I'm just gonna switch to my headset for a second, so if you see me moving, but nice to meet you all.
And you all as panelists are the only participants who can mute and unmute yourself at will. So just feel, comfortable in doing that. When we ask for questions, we're going to ask them to put them into the chat, and we'll be able to read them, out loud for them. And we'll work in that way, so we can kind of make sure that there are no issues or anybody, jumping into our conversation who should not be here. But yeah, we want this to be as comfortable as possible. This is our very first one of these Zoom town halls. And so you guys, no pressure, but you guys are helping us to set a standard, and hopefully over the course of the next couple of months, as we continue these, folks will continue, the audience will continue to grow, and we'll be able to really have a robust conversation around this as we organize. I'm going to mute myself right now, but I'll come back off when we're about to start.
We have about 2 minutes to begin. I know I sent you all documents a few hours ago, but are there any outstanding questions that you have about we're going to talk about it all, but about the campaign or about the partnership that I can answer for you quickly? Okay, perfect.
Let's see.
We're going to open up in just a second. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, here we are. Good evening, everyone from across the country. My name is Shakia Cherry Donaldson, the founder and executive director of 1,000 Women Strong, and I welcome you to our inaugural national town hall around student debt and the impact it has on Black women, our futures, our capacities to grow wealth and take care of our families and our larger communities. So I'm just overjoyed by all the folks that are here today. I see folks popping up and saying hello in the chat. My phone keeps dinging, so I need to turn it over. So just thank you all so much. And it is my pleasure to introduce my co-host this evening, Adana Walker, our National Outreach Director here at 1,000 Women Strong. Adana, you want to introduce yourself to the people?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. And again, to echo Shakia, thank you so much for joining us for this really important conversation. I am the Outreach and Partnerships Director, and I just started this week, but have worked for several years on different projects with Shakia. She's an amazing woman, an amazing leader, and she's built a fantastic team here. We plan to do a lot of great work in terms of organizing and just community building. And so this is a key cornerstone for us in making sure that we talk about and center the economic needs and progress of Black women. My background is actually in fundraising. And so I come from a world where we talk about, big checks going to organizations that are going to, help to change the world. And it's interesting about how many of the people who are generously helping support groups who have generational wealth that they are able to, count on as they are giving these, major grants to support candidates and individuals also. And that is something that we as a community have not been able to build as other communities have. And so student loan debt is key to that. And Shakia, before we introduce our panelists, just my question to you is, why is this the issue that you wanted to tackle right now? And how did the ACLU partnership come about?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. So 1,000 Women Strong launched September 2020 during the Democratic National Convention because I was organizing and having a conversation with Black women across the country, much like you all tonight, around the conflict or the tension we were having in that moment about, of course we're going to vote, of course we're going to show up, but we keep showing up for a country that doesn't love us, right? And that energy was very prevalent in communities and in private conversations that we were having across the country amongst ourselves, and it resonated with folks. And we got over 30,000 hits from our initial digital campaign. But coming out of November and then the historic runoff where 1,000 Women Strong was present and on the ground and talked to over 100,000 voters in less than 6 weeks about why we had to show up and show out once again for a democracy and for a possibility of a future, that when now on the other side, when we're looking about empowering and impacting our communities, it is important that this administration and this country as a whole pay what they owe. And so when the ACLU launched their economic equity and inclusion program earlier this year, one of their key frames was about student loan debt and how they did policy research about how student loan debt particularly impacts Black women the hardest, as 2/3 of $1.7 trillion of federal loan debt in this country, not Black people, Black women. And it just seemed like a partnership where we can go back to the folks that got us here, and that we were already building community with, and wanted to reflect in the work that we did about an issue that was greatly impacting them. And if not immediately, directly, personally, but someone they knew and someone they loved. So in April, this partnership was formulated with the National ACLU and the wonderful team over there. And we officially launched on May 28th. And as of today, we have spoken to and gotten over 8,000 Black women from across the country to sign on in support of this effort to demand that this administration sees us and not for just what we did or what we can do at the ballot, but our full selves and contributions in this country. So again, thank you for that question. But I want to turn it over to our magnificent panel because part of this conversation is not, the singular voice, but our Dr. Maya Angelou quote is, "I come as one, but I stand as 10,000." And I thought it was important that in this, it wasn't a singular voice, or I did not become the singular spokesperson of this issue, but we spoke to women across the country who deal with it differently. So it is my pleasure that we are graced this evening with women from coast to coast to talk about their particular impact with this issue and how it affects our larger community as a whole. So Madonna, do you want to take it over and introduce our first guest?
Sure. And again, panelists, we would love for you to tell us about yourselves and maybe a little bit about why this issue is important to you. So we'll start with Dr. Marlena Sherman-Linton.
Good evening. Thank you so much. I'm a mindset development expert. And so what I do is I empower individuals, mainly women, with the strategies needed to rediscover their lost identities, rediscover their lives, redefine themselves, and in that redefine their confidence levels. Why I'm so passionate about this, in order to get to becoming Dr. Marlena, I had to take out student loans. And raising 4 sons and, being an entrepreneur, also having that, it was a lot. And I found myself going through changes where I actually wound up on the operating table and died. Of course, I didn't stay dead. So I coded on the operating table. I was able to be resuscitated, but then it set me on a journey to spending 80 days in a coma, coming out of that. And like, this can't happen to another sister. So what can I do with my voice? I still have those debts. I say, if I die, I win, but I don't want to feel like that. And I'm not able to scale my business because I'm paying, when I'm paying right now, of course, with COVID, it's on hiatus, but it's $1,700 a month that I can't put back into my business to, grow it and help others. So that's why I'm passionate about this topic.
Thank you. And one more question. Can you tell us where you are?
Oh, I'm in Northridge, California.
Okay, wonderful. So Dr. Sherman-Linton is our California representative, and each of our panelists is from a different region of the.
Well, Donna, we lost you. Can you hear Donna?
No.
Donna, we lost you. Donna, we lost you. Your sound. Well, why, Donna?
Oh, can you guys hear me now?
There you go.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, so I just wanted to say again, each of you is from a different region of the country. We're trying to tackle this again nationwide, and so that's why it's important for us to make sure that our attendees also know that we are not just focusing this on any one key area. So with that, Alandis Powell, if you would not mind introducing yourself, and we'll go from there.
Hi, and thanks for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. My name is Alandis Powell. I am actually a banker. I'm a VP over at Fifth Third Bank here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I am also a co-founder of a nonprofit called Black Art Speaks. I am the recent board chair from the Urban League of Greater Southwestern Ohio. So I'm past board chair from the past 2 years. I guess this is like, I'm older. And I have a son who has debt already because of college, but I've seen it. I've seen when working with so many ladies, especially exactly what the prior person was talking about. I've seen it stop the growth of people, especially Black women. Even when they find a job, it stops them from getting a house. When they want to get a home, it makes them take jobs they really don't want to just to pay their student debt. I know a lot of people who work 2 jobs, and I think it still is a part of, the 400 years of our struggle, because a lot of people who don't look like us, they don't actually start off life after college with debt the way we do. And it's really sad. And I think there's a lot that can be done with this. So I am a huge, even though I'm a banker, I am a huge supporter and actually wiping away some of this debt, and let's start back over. And another thing is, if you really look at the colleges, they've overcharged. They've overcharged a lot. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. And now we're going to go to, I want to make sure I pronounce your name correctly. Is it Sharnae? Sharnae Tunson?
Yes,
Okay,
that's it.
thank you.
Perfect. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sharnae Tunson, and I'm also in sunny California, the greater Los Angeles area. And I've been in education for 22 years, started off as a teacher and worked my way into administration, was a school principal, and then now I'm working as a consultant to support other school leaders. And this issue is really something of concern to me, because as an educator, it's part of my role to encourage students to go to college and to prepare for their future. And I want to be able to do it with reassurance that they're going to be okay on the other side. And so, it's very difficult in becoming a school leader. There's so much schooling and credentials, certifications that you have to do. So I've basically been in school my entire career, to the point where, the good thing is, yes, while you're in school, you don't have to pay your loans, they're in deferment. But the bad thing is they continue to accrue interest. And so, because this has been sort of a lifelong experience for me, my loans are enough where I can purchase a home with that amount. But because of the majority, the great amount of interest that's in it, it does put a burden on, my family financially. And, it's unfortunate that even, when we die and we go on, our debt is still there. So it's passed down, from me to my survivors.
You brought up several key points I'm going to get back to later in the conversation, but thank you very much. And next, we're going to go to Phelan Walker. Did I pronounce your first name correctly?
Almost, it's Fallon, but
Fallon, I'm sorry,
okay.
Fallon.
No, you're fine, you're fine. I also work in banking. I am a financial risk analyst. I've worked in banking for the past 10 years. I am also the owner of a company that I formed called Curly Concierge. It's more in line with my passion. It's something that I love, which is natural hair. I teach Black women all around the world how to do their natural hair. I serve as like a social media influencer on some, levels, and curating products, backing Black owned products, just all around, in the space that uplifts Black women altogether. And this topic is, I'm very passionate about this one too, because I can remember plenty of times in my life where student loans has stopped me, well, almost stopped me, from achieving things that I worked very, very hard for. And even things like a mortgage, we probably are going to get into it, but it's set up to where even the amount that you pay for your student loans, that's not enough when it comes to counting your debt for a mortgage. They actually want to count even more of it. As it stands, the home that I did end up purchasing, the amount that I owe per month, although I don't pay that amount because it would just wipe me out, is the same amount as my mortgage. And it is mind-blowing sometimes, the amount that, we owe. And sometimes when you look at it, you ask yourself, well, I borrowed this money, but the interest alone is crippling. And I don't know how it's not regulated. I don't know why this topic is not a more prevalent topic. But I think that, you know, I'm really proud to be here because I think something does have to be done. And I will admit that before I was invited to speak here, I did not realize that Black women held more debt than everyone else, but it does not surprise me. It doesn't surprise me at all. I don't know any other Black women who went to college and just they had money to spend, generational wealth, left college without it. All of us had to borrow to get there. And I don't feel like we should have been in this position, especially given how much this country owes us to begin with. So this is very important for me, and I appreciate being here.
Fallon, thank you so much again. My apologies for mispronouncing your name. Can you also tell us again where you're from?
I'm in Tampa, Florida.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Repping the other side of the country.
Yes.
All right, next we're going to go to Ms. Talbot.
Hi, everyone. I apologize for being late. My name is Shayna Talbot. I am currently a fourth-year medical student at Drexel, and I'm currently in Pittsburgh doing my medical ICU rotation. I'm assuming, and again, I apologize for being late, but it sounds like everyone's talking about their experience with their student loans. Fortunately for undergrad, I didn't have very many student loans. I was fortunate to get a scholarship, but considering the fact that I'm in medical school right now and at one of the most expensive medical schools in the country, I am racking up serious debt. I think I'm probably around like $350,000. And it's one of those things that I don't really think about because I'm like, I just want to get my education. It is what it is. I just want to be a doctor and I don't really care how much it costs, but I know it's something that's going to affect me. It's really interesting now because I really love primary care. I love women's health, but that's not where the money is. And it's really sad that I'm now thinking about how much I'm going to make post-medical school as an attending doctor. And those are things that I'm considering because I have so much debt. And my main focus in medicine is I want to help people who look like me, who come from similar backgrounds from me, who are disadvantaged. But again, that's not where the money is. And I don't feel like I should have to make that decision, but I'm forced to make that decision considering the fact that I'm racking up hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. So that's pretty much my spiel. And that's why it's an important topic for me to try to kind of navigate.
Thank you so much, future Dr. Talbot. Shakia, take yourself off mute, and let's go ahead and get into a conversation with our fantastic panelists. I'm so excited, first of all, that you guys are coming from California, Ohio, Florida. Drexel is in Iowa, is that right?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Okay. So yeah, again, so we're covering the entire.
Ping. Yes. Yes. Okay. There's so many topics that are touched on, so I do kind of want to get into it. But the first question I'm going to ask the entire panel and just kind of popcorn in as you can is why, like, what was the reason why, and I'll even go first, but what was the reason why, like, we owe all this debt? And I frame this in the sense that, you know, there's been comments in the sense that, like, well, if you just manage your money better, or, you know, the Susie Osman method of paying down debt, or, you know, if you just stay on the plan, like, if you don't defer, all these reasons why. But essentially, I do think it's important for the panel to discuss very clearly, like, why we had to borrow. Why did you have to take out student loans? Why was it a necessity in order for you to get your education that you had to borrow so much? Especially if we didn't think we'd be able to pay it back. Because this is a question that comes up very often, and I think it's a painful question for some of us. But I do think we need to call a thing a thing. So anyone can start, but why did you borrow? Or in your case, so why did your son have to borrow?
Yeah, and I'm actually going to answer it a little differently since I didn't have to. But the question you asked about why people have to, or why they borrow without understanding what they can pay back. First of all, college is about a dream. College is about you believing in your future, and you don't know what your financial status is going to be afterwards. So anyone who asks that question or think they know the answer, they don't. I deal with a lot of people financially who've gone through a lot of things. And what I know is the largest hope a person can have and invest in is college, their future. And when you are about to be kicked out of school, and the only thing it takes is for you to sign your name and continue to investing in yourself, you're going to do it. Everyone will do it. So I just wanted to make sure, even though I didn't have to, I just want to make sure everyone knows that it is not even a fair question for people to say that you thought you would be able to pay it back or you knew exactly how much you were going to be able to spend at all. It's not fair. So that's my 2 cents.
Before you go on mute, one other thing that I wanted to mention, if you guys could also tell us where you went to college, I think that'll be helpful. I know there's a mix of people who went to private and public. That'll be super helpful. So, Alandis?
Fort Valley, University in Fort Valley, Georgia, small HBCU.
I think that I would like to add that I think there's a level of deception that a lot of people don't talk about. I went to college when I was 17 years old. And as someone who is now 33, when I see, and I actually see what it is that I owe, when I see how it grows every single year, when I see that what I pay is a drop in the bucket compared to what I owe, when I get to the point where I say, I have accepted that I will die with this debt. I've accepted it and I'm at peace with it. I think that if I would have known that, like actually known it at 17 years old, when they say, if you just sign here, if you just click this button and release it, not only can you go to school, but we will allow you to stay on the dorms that we took you to walk through the college, and you saw everyone and you were speaking and you saw the mascot. We will sell you all those things that we promised you as a high schooler walking through school. And, it's just like, oh, okay. And not only that, but I am the child of a single mother of 3 children who is a Black woman who succeeded, but at the same time, she succeeded within the realm of what that means, but not to a point where she could pay for college for 3 girls. And, me and my sisters are spaced out 3 years apart. She did a great job in taking care of us, but I mean, we know how it is. Like, you live from paycheck to paycheck. And even if you don't live, those extra amounts, that's school shoes, that's birthday parties. At no point, even if we were talking community college, would she have had enough money to still take care of my sisters who needed her and then send me there. So it's where, like, I have to sign this or I'm not going to college, because gone are the days of I'll just pick up a job at McDonald's and then I'll go to the bursar's office and I'll pay for it. That doesn't exist anymore. And it didn't exist when I graduated from college 11 years ago. So I can only imagine it doesn't exist now. And I went to Florida International University down in Miami. It is a state school. It is not a private school, but at the very same time, the education in and of itself is, it's, how do I put it? That has to be a certain amount, but everything else, the meal plan, the dorms, all of the other things that you sign that loan for, the books won't even get on the books. Like, those are things that doesn't, that doesn't have to be in line with state school prices, So I think that's also something to talk about, just being naive and walking in as someone who, you don't have any life experience. You don't know what you're really signing. You're just giving me money and I'm going to take it.
I would echo. Oh, sorry. I would echo what you just said, because, I grew up in South Los Angeles, single parent home. And I went to college at Clark Atlanta University. So I left my comfort zone and went clear across the country for school. And again, had no idea all the different things that would cost money. in addition to, you know, having to pay for books and things like that, for us, the big deal was, oh, you're going to get a refund check. Well, what does that mean? You know, the refund check is the money that's left over after your semester is taken care of. And that's the money that you have to do whatever you want to do, as opposed to, well, let me just reduce the amount of the loan that I'm going to borrow and not, you know, have that. So definitely a lot of naivety in doing it. But again, you know, we were sold a dream. And for me, going into education, we constantly have to go to the next and get the next credential, get the next degree. And you know, after attending Clark and graduating from Clark Atlanta, coming back home, I had to get my credential from Cal State Dominguez Hills. And then when it was time for me to go into administration, I had to go to Loyola Marymount University to get that credential. And looking into the doctoral program, you know, it's like, what is the next thing? And it's constantly, you know, it started at this number and now it's like this number. You know, what happened? I blinked and it was like, wow, you know. But as you said, I'm okay with it's there. I'll do the best that I can, and life goes on, you know. And it shouldn't be that way, though.
No,
It shouldn't.
no, it shouldn't be.
And Charnay, I would add, because I'm sorry, real quick, I would add, just because I lived in LA for years also, the cost of living in some of these cities that we end up in after school is humongous barrier also for being able to put any money aside to buy a home anyway. So you're already starting out with that issue, and then you've got debt on top of that. So I'm so sorry, Dr. Linton, go ahead.
No worries. I was just going to say, I'm the last generation of the baby boomers, and my grandparents raised me. I had very young parents. And so they had a 4th grade and 6th grade education. So everything they said is go to school, get a good job. You know, you can support yourself. So everything that was undergraduate and even my graduate, part of my first graduate degree, I paid out of pocket. I worked multiple jobs and paid out of pocket. But as I was growing in my corporate career and I wanted that next level, the corporation was like, well, you need this and you need that. And it wasn't like I could wait, you know, to earn the money, because life had hit at that point. You know, family, my kids were in school. They were in private. Two of the 4 were in private school. So we're trying to make sure they have a short up foundation. So when it was presented, hey, go for your dream, you know, keep moving toward your doctoral degree and just take out the loan. It was like a no-brainer. Yeah, let's do it. And it was always, yeah, I'm going to pay it, you know, as I scale my business, as I grow my business, I'll pay it. But then the world turns upside down and, you know, that doesn't, you know, come to fruition the way they sold it. And so I don't have a problem paying my loans. Here's the problem. If there's a way for me to exchange, you know, what's out there. I was told the only way I could get debt forgiveness if I become a teacher. Well, here at 56, you know, growing in this certain avenue where I want, you know, my vision and I believe my purpose is, it doesn't fit. So now I'm just told, oh, well, this is what you took it on, you have to deal with it. And it shouldn't be that we die, we win, you know, type mentality about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went to, for my MBA and my doctoral degree, I went to CTU, Colorado Technical University.
Thank you. Yeah, I just, there's so much that echoed for me here, especially about but we bought the dream. And you know, I don't even have my degrees. Like, I don't, like, they're at my mom's house. They're like both of them, high school, bachelor's and my master's degree. They all sit on my mom's shelf. I just never travel with them. But the joke is always like, the inside joke is like, you know, I bought my freedom papers, right? Like that was the joke, because the reality is, you know, I sit before you, and I don't think I would have been able to do all of this and continue to grow the way I have had I not had those experiences, had I not had, you know, those degrees and been able to attend the colleges that I did. So it's painful because it's not a regret, right? Like, I'm so thankful you're an educator. I'm so thankful that you started your business. I'm so thankful that we got what we needed in order to be where we are, right? But it's painful because it's a constant reminder of, but did we get there yet? Are we there yet? You know, and I'm working so hard. I'm doing, you know, you try to do all the things right, the repayment plan, or, you know, you forbear, you know, for a year, you get it back together, and then you come back, you know, like whatever. And at the end of the day, it's like all I was trying to do at the ripe age of 17 or 18 was figure out how to get to the next step.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to chime in, and I agree with everyone. I think that we are sold a dream. And I think when you come from a family where you are the first one to go to college, you're willing to attain that dream by any means possible. And so like, that's how I feel about taking out all these loans for medical school. It's like, all right, well, either way, I'm going to be a doctor. And people tell me, oh, you'll be fine. And I'm like, am I really going to be fine? Like, who knows, right? And you really can't trust people, but it's just like, yes, am I doing this because this is a passion of mine? Sure. But I'm also the first one doing it. And I'm coming from a family who's never taken out loans, doesn't have really much financial literacy, right? So I don't really have someone to guide me and say, no, Shayna, you should take out less than this because of X, Y, Z. Or if you take out less, maybe I can help you pay your rent or whatever it is. Like, I just don't have those financial resources at my disposal to help me even make better decisions when taking out money for school.
Yeah, hey Shayna, and before, just to follow up really quick on something, when you decide to find a job, when it's time, negotiate for them to pay your student loans as a doctor. And sometimes what we have to do is get a negotiator to negotiate where we're going to go work for us. And that's, you know, that's something you should do. And a lot of people don't know. I think it really does go back to what you know and what you don't know. And what I was trying to say is when you're in there and you're in that dream, you're going to sign that paper, because what was your alternative? And so I always think when we say that people aren't educated enough about it, if you knew everything, what would you do? A lot of people would still have to sign that piece of paper, because at that moment, what you're doing is trying to get to a future that you've dreamed for yourself. And unless there is an alternative that we can find, then people are going to keep signing that paper. But make sure you negotiate for someone to pay off your student loans for you.
Thank you for that advice.
And I think negotiation, I mean, there are so many things we're talking about here, you know, financial literacy, the dreams that we have, you know, the information that we are told about the American dream and what it takes to attain that, that are all geared towards a lens of whiteness. And everybody else just needs to, I guess, catch up. And I'm thinking, as we're talking about, Dr. Linton talked about her grandparents raising her and having a fourth grade education. Full disclosure, Alandis Powell is my cousin Landy. She's a person that I have looked up to my entire life. She's got two fantastic grandmothers, but the one we share has an 8th grade education from a tiny little town in Kentucky. And she made sure that her daughters went to college, that her granddaughters went to college. You know, that was critical to her, not just her sons, but her daughters as well, because, you know, she was an incredibly intelligent person who at some point had to go and work and help to raise her younger siblings to help her parents out. And so I am thinking about the fact that I graduated from Spelman College, and I didn't come out with debt. I had some scholarships, and my parents were able to cover the rest. My father was the first in his family to go to college, and he had to take so many different jobs to get himself through, that he said for him it was just he wanted his kids to be able just to go and learn. Now, we had a little too much fun freshman year, but like then we had to settle down and realize, yes. But I think about that because I grew up in the suburb in Austin, Texas, where of course you're going to go to school. Of course. I mean, you're going to go to any school, you know, that you want to. And so we're looking at what, you know, the white kids are being told, there's not even a question about this. It's just going to happen. The money's going to be there. And then what we are told and the way we are told it. It's just fascinating to me to think about how when I got out of school and then went into education, went into teaching, that I started talking to my kids the same way. I was teaching in Compton, California. And yes, all of my kids should be able to get the same education, but they didn't have the same access, nor did their parents. So in talking to them about it, it was not realistic in the way that I was talking about it, but also can bring a lot of shame onto people as they think, oh, well, I'm supposed to be doing things a certain way because this person did it and that person did it, and they're now teaching me. And no, that's not the real world, and it's not fair to them. Until we create an environment where our kids, all of our kids, are able to get the education they deserve without coming out with this weight on their back, then again, yeah, we're not going to be able to thrive as a community. So Shakia, do you want to lead into the next question, or would you like?
I'm going to pivot. No, I'm going to pivot. So, so the ask on the table, the ask on the table from us, as well as several national partners and coalition around canceling student debt, is that the minimum, if not wiping it all clear, is that every eligible borrower get up to $50,000 of student loan wiped. What is currently being spoken about that will be signed in September is for $10,000 for all eligible borrowers to get wiped away. But when I'm being approached about this campaign, and looking at the numbers in real time and the way and who it affects and the way it affected us in particular, it was important that we were around this $50,000 number, with the average Black woman borrower owing $37,000 of debt. So for many Black women, it would wipe their debt clean. Not all, but for many, it would wipe their debt clean. And so I just, I pose this to the panel, like, what would $50,000 of student loan debt being wiped away by this administration this year do for you in your life? Like, what could it change?
Well, it would personally make a difference for me. My debt is over $150,000. So to have, a good portion of that be, I am personally pursuing ways to exchange my time and my wisdom and my knowledge to reduce my debt, sort of like through Ms. Powell was saying, through a company taking on my services and part of that, paying some of my debt for me, so I can get debt forgiveness that way. But it would be huge. I mean, because just how the interest has grown, and right now, to be honest, I have it out of sight because I want to work in a different season. So while it's simmering, I know it's doing this thing, and I'm not focused on. I'm realistic that it's there. But to know that that's a great portion of it. And as I scale my business and my plans grow and I can throw more at it to buy it down quicker and get out of that pressure. Because reality of it, I know I have great work ethic. To just walk away from it is not an option. And so I'm committed to paying it until I die. But I don't want to have that there, like you all said. So it would be huge.
I think it would be really significant. For me, I think it would allow me to have the money to do the things that I've wanted to do, which is, I want to purchase a bigger home. I want to take the home that I'm in, and I actually don't want to sell my home in order to purchase a bigger home. I would like to take the home that I'm in, give it to my children, and allow them to eventually see that it is paid off and use that money, whether it be renting it or staying in it, to be able to benefit from that money or benefit from being able to stay somewhere that doesn't cost anything, and build that wealth, take that money and put it into investment accounts so that they do not have to realize the burden of debt. And I think just from an economical standpoint, Black women give so much to this country's economy. We're huge as far as like purchasers, buyers. We're so educated. And I think that by forgiving 50,000, it's not like that money just goes poof. We do nothing but give. That's all we've done throughout history. And I really do think that you will see an emergence of new businesses. You'll see debt being paid in other ways because we are responsible, and we will pay other debt that we have that we may just be throwing pennies to because we're throwing so much, at that. You'll see people purchasing homes. I just really think that it would change things in greater ways than what we know. It wouldn't just be, oh, now they don't want to pay this, it's just going to be gone. More money that the US owes. We're always giving back. That's what we've always done. And I also, just to kind of piggyback off of what Shayna said, I think that someone needs to really look at, if Shayna's saying that she has borrowed more than $250,000, and her mind in general is what will save people. We're talking about doctors that many times are the difference between life and death. Why would someone that is that important in our society, why should they be burdened with that kind of debt? And also, when you think about it, how many times have people said, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an engineer, something that can truly benefit our economy, but also serve as those people can serve as I can't get the word for it, but great examples for the next generation to come. And how many people have changed their mind about wanting to be something because they were confronted with the amount. I know that I was going for my MBA, and after 2 semesters, I saw the numbers going up. I have not re-enrolled since. And this is with my job paying for a portion of it, because I did choose a private school that offered me a scholarship because I had a high GPA for my undergrad degree. And even with all of that being said, getting an MBA towards data analytics, which is what I'm in anyway, I stopped. I was like, no, I can go up the ladder in another way, because I can't keep doing that, because that's going to stop me from doing everything that I want to do. People who do not pursue being lawyers and doctors, because now we're old enough. We're no longer 17 anymore. Now we're old enough to really see what it is. And here I am, a 22, 23, 24, 25-year-old. And I'm like, I already know what the debt I already have has done. I'm not going to do that. And there goes that person that could have, again, been the difference between life and death. Doctors that save people's lives every single day, and they're burdened with debt for what? Why is that even a thing? You know what I mean? So that's, for me, I think it would be beneficial for me, but just for a whole lot of people. And if we're being honest, I've said this to my friends, I don't believe that Black American descendants of slavery should be paying for college in the first place, but that's a whole different conversation for a whole different day, I suppose. But,
It's Juneteenth weekend, so, I mean, also here in Texas, I totally agree with you on that. You guys have brought up a lot of points, and one that keeps coming back to is the decisions that you had to make about what you were going to do post-college. And I was reading a report that the Brookings Institute put out that said that there is a growing lack of Black female teachers because these women are graduating and cannot afford to go into a low-paying field like education. People who really want to be teachers, that was their only dream, but it does not pay what they need to pay back in debt. And of course, that ties into the issue that Black children learn better with Black teachers. Yeah. So, I mean, it just becomes this vicious cycle in some of these key areas. Same again with Black doctors. We already have, too few Black doctors and Black female doctors. And yet, as future Dr. Talbot has talked about, if you are looking at debt that is quickly approaching $500,000, you're going to have to make different decisions about what you're going to do with your degree than some of your colleagues who are not walking out with any debt and are able to pick the field that they want to get into and just go and live the life that they had always planned for themselves. And so while there are some things that, obviously that we cannot kind of accomplish over the next couple of years with this, I think that they're all tied in together with what we are at 1,000 Women Strong hold most dear in terms of how can we help Black women to thrive. How can we help as a community each other so that we can make things better for the generations to follow us, as our ancestors have made, for the generations that have come after them. I wanted to get to another one of the questions that we had. Shakia, is that okay with you? Okay, because I think this doesn't just impact us; it also impacts the people we are in school with. Can any of you think about any friends that you had who started college with you and did not finish with you because they had to stop in and out? And if anybody wants to share anything about that, because I think that is also dear to many of us. So the people in our lives who had the same dreams that we had, and frankly, the debt burden became too high, and they had to sit out for a little while. Okay.
Yeah, I can.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I mean, I can just think of too many to name that this has affected, especially going to a Black college. There were a lot of classmates who were sold that dream and left their homes and traveled across the country to get to a college and stood in line, to financial aid office. And 2 weeks into the semester, they get that phone call like, hey, you need to pay X, Y, and Z or you're out of here. And so many of them would have to just get back on that plane or that bus and return back home. And ultimately, like, that was it. It was, okay, what's next? There was no, oh, I'm going to go home and go to community college and then transfer back. It was kind of like their dreams were shattered. So it's a huge concern.
I'm gonna jump in. So I forgot to mention earlier. So undergrad, I went to Franklin and Marshall College. Grad school, I went to the University of Sydney in Australia. So Franklin and Marshall College is a small liberal arts college in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I very much went there because of the scholarship money. There's no grateful for the experiences, all the people I met, all the professors, but there was, even from the time of acceptance, like of, okay, we sent out the 10 applications that you get, for free or reduced. And what came back, and you come back with the packages, and they won. And so, but the Black student population at the time that I went was 3%. So it was very small. So I came from predominantly Black and Latino neighborhood to predominantly white rural space. And everybody was there on some partial scholarship. Like it was like such a setup. It was like everybody got the first year part of it for free. Like, how you get here? Where you from? Where you from? Brooklyn? Oh, okay. Where you from? Philadelphia? All right. How'd they find you? I got some money. Like, honestly, it was a whole setup around recruitment. And then, with this rigorous education, isolated culturally in a lot of ways and socially from what we had come to from an urban environment, lack of support, lack of all of it. Every semester you see somebody not come back. And I just have to say, like, it was just something it was something I personally always became angry at the institution for. Because like, that wasn't how it was supposed to go. And it was always money. It was always money. It wasn't behavioral. Nobody was setting garbage cans on fire. Like, because we couldn't do that there.
Right.
Like 5 of us. We
Mm-hmm.
all know. But every semester, somebody wouldn't come back and money. What happened? They couldn't push that tuition, or they owed too much. And so the book, I mean, even the graduation book, all the names with asterisks were people that were allowed to walk but didn't get diplomas. But why you ain't getting a diploma? Because they owed. Like, even on their last day, they would never let you forget, like, you owe.
Yes.
I know a young man, a friend of mine, that, I mean, worked like a dog that summer so he could have his transcript so he could get a job.
Yeah.
Like a real job, you know, like could go then apply for what he thought was a real job, but he couldn't go apply because he couldn't afford. I mean,
because they will hold it hostage.
They
Yes.
will.
They will hold it
Like,
hostage,
this is
and
what I'm
you're not
saying,
getting
like,
it.
and
Yeah.
you're not getting it, and it's just like, I mean, it's painful. It's so painful, and you hope they finish. You hope they go back to community college. You hope they can come back and finish and do it in a fifth year, and you hoping, and a
Yeah.
lot of them don't. And I just hold space for that today. I just, you know, like, you
Yeah.
didn't fail. The system
The
failed
system
you.
failed you. Yes.
The system, I hold space for that today, because you did not fail.
Right.
It was set up. It was set up that way.
Right.
So yeah,
and to
excellent
Charnay's
question.
point, when we talk about refunds, we may have seen the person that was like, oh, you know, I bought a MacBook, I bought some shoes, I went to Red Lobster. But the truth is, it's not just the tuition. Sometimes you had enough of a scholarship to cover the per credit tuition, but you don't come from a family that could send you hundreds of dollars every single week. We all, I mean, we can now joke about eating ramen noodles and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but that was a very real thing. And it's like, sometimes after, you know, let's say a grant or a scholarship paid for that tuition, and then you message home and you're like, Mom, can I have, I need $500. I need this to be able, I don't have it. And that's for one book. And oh, I also need money to be able to live. I also need soap to wash my butt. I need all of these things to be able to live. And I could get a job, but the amount of working that I would have to do on top of a full course load, something's going to suffer. And it's either going to be me not having the money, my grades are going to suffer, which a lot of people, you see that happening. Their grades are suffering because they're trying to work at the mall or at wherever to be able to make it. So then when we talk about, oh, why did you take that many loans? And oh, you know, the amount for school was 10,000, but you took 15,000. Well, because I don't come from a family that can just give me money to live. I actually have to live. So what do we have now? That loan. Just push this button and you don't have to ask your mom anymore. You can focus on your studies and you don't need to work at Auntie Annie's rolling pretzels for $6.26 an hour while you're in school. You don't have to do any of that. And you can have a little bit more so that, you know, maybe you can kind of get your hair done. I mean, okay, sure. You sign and that's it.
Yeah, and I think what happens with this is actually, this is where it's systemic racism. Because what happens, those colleges that bring you in and offer you a lot of money to get 3% or 4%, they actually use the data of the fact you didn't stay to actually say they don't need to continue to recruit Black students and pay for them because they actually drop out. They don't talk about the fact you dropped out because they only gave you 1 or 2 years of tuition or a part of tuition. And then how it continues to impact Black people is because a lot of times we have to work and go to school, and again, your grades suffer. And when you get out and you're trying to get into maybe a leadership program or one of those programs, they're normally taking the top GPA. And so then you find yourself graduated and you're still struggling. And people who graduated with you, they're actually getting the cream of the crop when it comes to some of those jobs when, you know, you struggle to get through school financially, work the job and all that. And a lot of your counterparts who don't look like you didn't. They didn't need the loan, they didn't need the extra money, and they graduate with a much higher GPA. So that's the systemic piece that really is impactful.
we're talking about the financial piece of it, but mine was the health piece. So I'm in corporate and I'm a director, and well, I was a manager, and I wanted to get to the director level, and they're promoting men, just promoting and pushing them. And so every time I came up, it was like, well, you don't have this, you don't have that. So I went back to school, took the loan so I could have what they were saying was like deficit, a deficiency. But at the same time, I still had to be mom, wife, run the business, co with my husband. So my health started taking, and then you get to the point where you're just wearing all these masks, and the weight of them alone, you're becoming, and then all of a sudden, I'm eating, and so my weight's going up, and then I get to that point where they say, oh, well, now you're looking a certain way, you need to do something about it. So I opt for this quick fix, as they say, and end up coding and spending. Now it was 6 months of my life, and it was like, these debt's not gonna stop. We know you're sick. We'll defer them, we'll forbear, and we'll do whatever, but the interest is still going. And so, and then get to the end of that road and no longer even be with that company, and now you still have it, and we get trapped in, we get into that trap of that dream, and trying to be everything and all to someone, and then we end up being nothing to ourselves.
That is a word.
So the financial part of it, I get, so, but also we put our health on the line for these things. So, and for me, we're truly life or death. I coded twice on the operating table, 80 days on life support, 6 months trying to just get back into a real go of things, and still have residual health effects 17 years later from some of that. So,
And the mental health too. So you can't even use the mental health
Definitely,
that goes along with that.
Yeah. In thinking about this issue and kind of, I think the work that we are trying to do as an organization, and with the help and support of the ACLU, one of the reasons we want to have these conversations is that we want to put a face to this issue. We want to put voices to this issue. We want to put names to this issue beyond a petition, because these stories, while very individual, these are our stories. This is us. We're representing baby boomers, Gen X, and millennials right now in terms of the students who are on this call. We've got another generation coming up very, very quickly, who are also looking at debt that they are going to be forced to deal with. So sorry about I'm just realizing that's in the background. But I'm just thinking about just what that means for us as a community, in terms of our ability to really get out there and thrive. You guys have mentioned some of you are entrepreneurs, and those passions. I would love for just a minute if you could tell us a little bit about that passion that you're following, so that we can know more about some of the great things that you are able to do in spite of the step that you're dealing with. So, Fallon, if you don't mind going first, I would love to hear more about your work.
Yeah, sure. I love natural hair. It didn't always start like that. I spent years wearing weave, loving it. Shakia, we met in a different country. We were teachers in South Korea, and she knows I would throw a wig on. That's what it was. It was hard water in Korea. We weren't doing natural hair. So then eventually I had to stop getting relaxers because I was pregnant, and I said, oh, I might as well give it a try, because it was becoming more popular, and so after I give birth, I cut my hair off. I don't know what to do with it. So as I usually do, I become obsessed, and I deep dive and I research into anything that, I feel like it seems tough, but it seems like, I really want to figure it out, and I didn't want it to defeat me. So I did it. And the more that I dove into it, I just went through these phases where it was like, oh, I feel really ugly with my hair. I'm so used to long straight hair. And then all of a sudden it was, my hair's kind of short, and, oh, I'm, wearing my natural hair, but I kind of got to wear this wig because not for fun, but because I'm kind of hiding behind it. But through all of that, I just, I enjoy natural hair. I enjoy products. I have as many hair products as you have books on the bookshelf behind you, Adana. I help people, the internet's a great thing. So there are women who are natural in Africa and Jamaica and London and all these different places who don't have access to certain products that I can help them with access to. I can teach people things. I give, one-on-one consultations with people, no matter where they are. So, it's just something that makes me happy. And also it's something I think deep down inside, because of the field that I've chosen, I'm usually the only Black woman in that space. Most of the time, usually only Black person, particularly in, the part of the bank that I work in now. And sometimes being on social media and surrounding myself with other women who can understand me and not having to put to code switch and put that face on and just be myself, it feels good. People who can relate, same struggles, same everything. Because Tampa is not, a city where I'm surrounded by Black women. There are plenty of Black people here, but I just don't feel like there's somewhere, let's say, when you're in DC, you can go there and you see other Black women and there's happy hours and everyone's having a good time. It's, it's just not a city like that. So I feel like I look to social media to have that, that camaraderie, and it just happens to be in the form of natural hair. And it just so happens that I've found a way to make money and be, passionate about it, and also be with my fellow sisters.
Thank you. Awesome story. Tell us again the name of your company.
Curly Concierge.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Any other entrepreneurs on the call?
I have a heart-centered business called Dr. Marlena Purpose and Passion. And so what I do, I act as a mindset development expert to empower the individual to break the chains of the past so they can live in their now. And so start resetting their visions for their future. And I take them on what I call a discovery journey, and the teachers are here. I actually use the discovery, form of the discovery method to do that. And I'm also a certified hypnotherapist, and I practice timeline therapy. So I take them back on their timelines to snip that stuff, those emotions, so they can, travel forward, not looking back. And then I'm also, we're crazy entrepreneurs over here. We have 3 brick and mortar business barbershops, do a little travel business, and my husband is a broker, and I support him in the real estate broker, and I support him in those efforts. So we have a lot going on. And it's the only debt, it's a funny thing, the only debt that I truly have is my student loan debt. And of course the mortgage and things like that, we haven't paid all that off, but no credit cards, no car payments. I mean, just this looming student debt. So again, why I'm passionate about it. I don't want other women to not have a vision for their future because they're so focused on just that, the debt part of trying to live their dream out to its fullest.
And it's debt that you incurred because Black women have to get a bachelor's degree to make what white men make with an associate's degree, got to get a master's degree to make what white men make with a bachelor's degree, and so on and so on and so on. And yet you're thriving. It's awesome and amazing.
It's crazy. I actually have an associate's. I have 2 bachelors. I have 1 completed master's. I have an MBA, one that was almost finished, and then I have the doctoral degree. So and the numerous certifications because of trying to be equal to my male counterparts.
Yeah. Well, let's open the floor to questions. If any of our attendees have questions for the panel, please go ahead and put them into the chat. And we will try to get those answered for you right now. If you have a question that you think of later, we're going to give you information at the end so you can go ahead and ask us that directly. But right now, we would love to bring you into the conversation. Been enjoying seeing what people are putting into the chat. Any questions would be awesome. And while we are waiting for that, Um, sorry, while we're waiting for that, Shakia, this is a political issue. I mean, obviously, we are trying to make it even more political. So can we talk a little bit real quickly about some of the ways that 1,000 Women Strong, in partnership with ACLU, plans to organize around this issue?
Absolutely. So since our launch on May 28th, we started with a digital effort because we wanted to lead and do a whole press piece around why and highlight why this was an important issue. And so that is how we've engaged with over 8,000 Black women across the country to sign on the petition from the digital front. So we are operating in the digital space, and then in relational organizing, such as these town halls, and listening sessions that will be happening nationally. Will open up big national conversations as well as regional conversations for women to gather around this issue and start to organize. But in addition to that, with COVID restrictions lifting and all of us being a year and a half into surviving a global pandemic, it was important to me that we safely and consciously come outside, and that we create spaces while the weather is good, while we can do open air events, and still be conscious that even though we're over it, the pandemic is not over, that we could come in and celebrate one another and see each other and provide space not only to lament about this issue, but to just greet each other in our survival, because that within itself is a revolutionary act. That within itself is political resistance, just us showing up. So I am excited that post, this tonight, going into this Juneteenth weekend, we are partnered across 4 states, including Tennessee, New York, Georgia, and South Carolina, to bring activities and information around this particular issue, as well as in partnership and coalition with other groups that value Black people and the issues that we care about, and not just our vote, and uplifting those voices while celebrating the fact that on this year, for Juneteenth, in Galveston, Texas, we were finally free. So I think just, again, just combining the fact that this is a continuation of a long fight and a long lineage in this country, to be seen as full, not only full human, but as full citizens and participatory givers and offerers. So post this, everyone on the panel and who signed up will be getting information about the 4 events if they're in a city or a state near you. Additionally, we'll be building events all throughout July and August across the country. So if you're interested in co-partnering or co-hosting an event in your city or your state, please reach out to us at info@1000 Women Strong. And if you want to speak directly to Adana, who will be leading our partnerships and engagement as we bring in surrogates and volunteers and start to build these events, and bring on organizers that look like us, to speak directly to us and to create and grow this tent, please reach out to Adana at Adana, EDANA, at 1kwwomenstrong.com. And so, yeah, I mean, again, as I started this, I'm so overwhelmed and so excited because this is the kickoff, and it is so impactful and it's so powerful. And it's just about bringing people in, because in September, we will be delivering these signatures to the administration, and they will not be able to ignore us. And I'm grateful for you all this evening for just being a part of that journey. So There's been some
Yeah.
questions. So I'm going
Questions?
to turn
Yeah.
it back over to Donna.
Thank you. So I hope that that answers the first question we received, and I hope I don't mispronounce your name. It's Aya or Ia, who asked the question of how we can get involved. And so you've, I think, given us some key steps. The next question we had was from Catherine Swain. What is the likelihood of this debt actually being canceled? Like, will this work? This action that we're taking?
So 1,000 Women Strong, in conjunction with ACLU and over 100 organizations across the country, is pushing from the 10,000 debt forgiveness that is currently on the table to a minimum of $50,000 before the moratorium on federal loans is over in September. And so we free. I guess what are our chances? Our chances are as good as our chances for any other revolution. Mm-hmm. But the reality is I'm showing up. I'm showing up, and I'm showing up not only for myself, but I'm showing up for everybody else, because it is time, like I said, for me, that they pay what they owe. They thanked us so much. You know, all through January, we got Black History Month, thank Black women, thank Black women. Well, you could very much thank Black women by canceling our student loan debt and setting us free from this particular burden, which is then an intersection to so much about how we care for our kids, how we care for our partners, how we care for our families and our extended loved ones. And I just want to be clear for anyone and everyone who thinks that this is a Black woman issue. It's not. It affects millions of people across the country. But the reality is, when it's good for Black women, it's good for everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So please pay what you owe. Yeah.
And so as we continue that, next question is, how would you contact VP Harris to come on board to cancel student loan debt? Communication, strategy, engagements, what are some of the ways that you're going to reach out to this Howard alum?
Absolutely. So, and this has actually been really interesting, because I've been doing press, and depending on who interviews me, they almost make it adversarial. Like, like, what are you going to do about, like, how are you going to challenge Vice President Harris? How are you going to approach her? And I'm just like, I'm going to have a conversation with her as a Black woman who has been in community with Black women. And the reality is, if she was not elected in tokenism and in platitude, if she really is there to stand up in the margins for folks that look like her and come from backgrounds that look like her, then it is incumbent on our current president to hear her. So our communication strategy is talk directly to her as a Black woman who has lived an intersection of experiences that we can share and hear our stories. And if she wants to come out and wobble with us somewhere, I'm with it, because I've seen her get it down. So this isn't an invitation to a conversation. This is not a challenge to a duel.
Understood. Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about Juneteenth. You know, I'm here in Texas. Juneteenth is sacred to Black people here. Has been celebrated, for 156 years. We're the first to make it a state holiday. And I have seen a lot of people rightfully saying, okay, great, you gave us another holiday, and now what? Because who gets to take off, tomorrow? Tom Cotton and his entire staff, they get tomorrow off. Ted Cruz and his staff, they get tomorrow off. Rand Paul and they get tomorrow off. And none of them support Black women in anything. They don't support this issue either. So what is going to actually help our community? That is so important for us to talk about, and for us to take into these events and celebrations that we go into, beyond, I think, the most important ones, which are just the celebrations of joy. As I think we just kind of take in the spirit of our ancestors and, the moment that they heard it, whether it was, in Galveston, or whether it was, some other place, around the country, when they finally realized that they were in fact free. That's celebration for us. But, in order for us really to have that joy and get the wobble on, I mean, we have to actually make sure that this work is done, so that the incredible women who are on this call, and our larger community are able to go out and thrive and live their dreams without having the thought in your head that, well, I'm going to die with it. So in the meantime, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. That just, nah, we deserve the world. And so part of what, I think the biggest part of what we do is 1,000 Women Strong, and as Shakia has been talking about this for so many years, is that, we believe in Black joy. And, it's kind of hard to have that joy when you're in the back of your head thinking about, well, how am I going to pay for it? And yet we continue to pay for it in many different ways. So I think that was our last question, and those were really good questions. Thank you very much. If you do have any additional questions, they put into the chat, info@1kwwomenstrong.com. My name, Idana, at 1kwwomenstrong.com. We want to continue this conversation with you. We will continue it over the next many weeks. And, we will come at it from different angles each time. I'm already thinking about, I would love to have one centered on basically medical debt and, medical school debt and how that impacts us as well. Because we also know that, Black patients have better outcomes with Black doctors. But if we don't have Black doctors, what does that look like for us? So thank you for what you all have brought to the conversation as panelists. This has been like a really great instructive conversation and a really way for us to begin. I think this series of conversations we're going to continue to have both in-house in the family and out there into the wider world.
Thank you all so much for being with us tonight. Everyone will receive a follow-up email just with some more information about the events this weekend and ways you can get involved in this ongoing campaign. We'll also share any information about the businesses or opportunities that any of our panelists discussed this evening. And thank you so much, panelists. Thank you for your time and your energy and your words here tonight. I mean, I am full. I am truly full. And I'll see you next time. Have a good night, everyone.
And if you want a t-shirt, email info@1kwwomenstrong.com and we will, just email. We want to make sure that you all get a t-shirt or a face mask if you need it. Thank you all. And happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.